Greetings, valued viewers. Welcome to a dark journey beneath the surface of history. To many tourists, the crystal-clear waters of these Mexican cenotes are a paradise. But beneath this breathtaking beauty lies a chilling and dark secret from 1,000 years ago. Archaeologists diving into these unknown depths did not find any legendary gold. Instead, they discovered a massive underwater graveyard filled with painted human skulls. Deep inside the sacred cenote of Chichen Itza, the water is eerily quiet and cold. The bright flashlight beams slowly cut through the pitch-black darkness of the ancient sunken cave. Floating above the muddy bottom, modern divers scan the ancient limestone formations carefully. Suddenly, their sonar equipment detects a massive pile of strange objects resting below. Moving closer, they uncover hundreds of human skeletons scattered across the dark abyss. According to modern research, these bones belong almost entirely to very young children. Most of these fragile victims were only between the ages of 3 and 11 years old. Even more disturbing, their skulls are still covered in a thick layer of bright blue paint. This vibrant color, known as Maya blue, was completely sacred to their ancient religion. How did this breathtaking natural wonder become a horrifying mass grave for the innocent? To find the truth, we must travel back in time over 1,000 years into the dark past. Imagine the terrifying truth of standing on the edge of this bottomless water pit. If you were forced to make a choice, would you sacrifice a child to save your dying nation? During the Terminal Classic period, the mighty Maya Empire faced a deadly crisis. A devastating drought cursed the Yucatan Peninsula for several agonizing decades. The once fertile maize fields transformed into cracked and completely lifeless barren wastelands. Scorching sunlight punished the desperate farmers who prayed endlessly for a single drop of rain. Dust storms swept across the empty villages, leaving nothing but starvation and pure misery. Rivers had dried up entirely, leaving giant sinkholes as their only surviving water source. But these deep cenotes were not merely ordinary wells for the extremely thirsty villagers. The ancient Maya firmly believed that these watery caverns were gateways to the underworld. This dark and terrifying realm, known as Xibalba, was home to many angry and powerful gods. The most feared among them was Chaac, the mighty god of rain and life-giving thunderstorms. According to historical records, priests believed Chaac was punishing them for their massive sins. The people grew incredibly thin and weak as unforgiving famine destroyed their families. Desperate parents watched helplessly as their children slowly died from the lack of clean water. High priests gathered at the towering stone pyramids to seek an urgent and divine solution. They studied the cloudless skies, searching for any sign of mercy from the heavens above.
Show us mercy.
Their conclusion was brutal but necessary. The angry god demanded the ultimate payment. Only the purest and most innocent souls could truly satisfy his unending and divine thirst. The cruel selection process began, tearing crying toddlers away from their heartbroken mothers. Guards armed with heavy obsidian clubs quickly marched through the dusty and ruined settlements. They forcefully took the chosen victims, ignoring the painful screams of their grieving parents. The captured children were brought to the sacred temple to prepare for the final dark ritual. Priests carefully washed their frail bodies, washing away the dirt of the dying upper world. They began to apply the holy Maya blue pigment, covering their terrified faces. This sacred paint marked them as the chosen messengers to the unforgiving lords of Xibalba. Heavy and ornate jade necklaces were placed around their tiny and incredibly fragile necks. These precious green stones represented the ultimate wealth of the fading Maya civilization. As dawn approached, the rhythmic beating of tribal drums echoed across the silent jungle trees. Thick clouds of copal incense smoke filled the air, hiding the tears of the doomed little ones. The high priest, wearing a magnificent green feathered crown, raised his arms toward the sky. He chanted ancient prayers, demanding the heavy rains to finally return to the dying earth. The terrified children stood at the very edge of the towering and dangerous limestone cliff. Looking down, they saw nothing but the cold and bottomless blue waters waiting far below them. Without hesitation, the powerful guards grabbed the heavily painted and crying young victims. One by one, the innocent children were cast deeply into the dark and freezing abyss below. Their tiny bodies plunged through the air, crashing heavily into the silent waters of the well. Bubbles rose to the surface as the heavy jade stones pulled them down into the endless dark. The frantic splashing quickly stopped, leaving the sacred pool completely silent and undisturbed. Up on the surface, the hopeful villagers waited desperately for the storm clouds to gather fast. But the sky remained brutally clear, mocking their painful and devastating sacrifice. This horrific scene repeated countless times throughout the dark Terminal Classic period. Hundreds of pure souls were drowned in the dark waters, pleading for a miracle that never came. The tragic silence of the cenote swallowed their final cries of terror and ultimate despair. As the drought continued to burn the land, the magnificent Maya cities were slowly abandoned. The surviving people fled into the deep jungles, leaving behind their massive stone pyramids. The sacred sinkhole was soon forgotten, swallowed completely by the growing green forest. For centuries, the ghostly remains rested peacefully at the bottom of the natural wonder. They became a silent and tragic monument to a society pushed to the brink of death. If you faced the total extinction of your people, what horrific lines would you boldly cross? Fast forward to the modern era, where curious tourists swim happily in these bright waters. They take smiling photographs, completely unaware of the massive tragedy hiding beneath them. It wasn't until courageous underwater explorers arrived that the shocking truth was revealed. Using highly advanced sonar scanning technology, they mapped the entire flooded cave system. Discovering the blue-painted skulls completely shocked the global archaeological community. At first, modern scholars quickly condemned the ancient Maya as completely cruel and savage. The very thought of sacrificing young children seemed completely unforgivable and evil. However, looking closer at the climate evidence completely changes this simple narrative. We must analyze these tragic events through the extremely desperate lens of a dying culture. The ancient Maya leaders did not sacrifice their young children out of pure malice or pure hate. They were driven by an overwhelming panic, trying to save their entire fragile world. In their desperate minds, offering their most precious treasure was the only logical solution. The vibrant blue pigment on the bones proves that these victims were highly honored and deeply loved. They were not treated as worthless slaves, but as divine messengers sent directly to the gods. The high priests genuinely believed that giving up their own flesh and blood would bring the rain. But the terrible drought continued to burn their crops, slowly destroying their glorious empire. Modern climate studies have proven the extreme severity of this massive, changing world. The majestic stone cities could no longer feed their massive populations without rain. The painted skeletons remaining in the deep, watery grave prove their absolute desperation. Deep underneath the surface, the ghostly shadows of the young children seem to linger endlessly. The brilliant underwater lights illuminate the ancient jade stones that pulled them into the abyss. We can slowly begin to feel the immense tragedy radiating from these preserved, fragile bones. The divers gently document every detail, ensuring these forgotten victims are respected. The eerie silence of the flooded cavern gently reminds us of their final, terrifying moments. It is extremely difficult to imagine the overwhelming fear they felt falling into the dark. Yet in their final moments, they were dressed like pure divine spirits, ready to meet the gods. The vibrant Maya blue color has amazingly survived the heavy weight of 1,000 silent years. This incredibly strong pigment was made using indigo plants and special, sacred, ancient clay. Creating this bright, holy color required immense religious devotion and highly ancient knowledge. It perfectly symbolizes the powerful link between the living world and the dark underworld. The dark history of Chichen Itza reveals how fragile human life truly is against nature. When the life-giving rains completely stop, even the most advanced and powerful empires will fall. The massive temples and grand pyramids stand as silent witnesses to their devastating collapse. Their desperate, dark rituals could not reverse the terrifying consequences of the changing climate. Today, the sacred cenote is surrounded by the peaceful and recovering green tropical forest. The giant ancient tree roots reach down gracefully to touch the surface of the freezing blue water. From above, the sinkhole looks incredibly romantic and detached from its violent past. But the deep waters will forever hold the tragic memories of the innocent souls lost below. As the modern divers ascend to the surface, they carry the heavy burden of this dark truth. We must rethink our harsh judgments regarding the desperate actions of the ancient Maya. They tried to survive a terrible disaster using the only religious methods they knew. Their ultimate sacrifice failed, leaving behind a haunting graveyard of beautifully painted bones. The dark history hidden within this beautiful natural wonder serves as a powerful warning. Extreme climate shifts can push any proud society to commit unthinkable atrocities. As we face our own modern climate challenges, we must learn from their devastating total collapse. The echoes of the crying children still resonate softly within the shadowy walls of the cave. Their preserved tiny skulls remind us of the terrible price of ignoring the pure wrath of nature. This sacred place is not just an ancient historical site, but a sorrowful monument of human pain. We honor their lost innocent lives by uncovering the historical context of their tragic deaths. Every single artifact brought up from the dark mud tells a deeply heartbreaking story. The brilliant Maya blue pigment is a testament to their deep art and strong religious faith. But it also represents the overwhelming darkness that swallowed their magnificent ancient cities. The story of the Chichen Itza Cenote is a reminder of nature's absolute control. No amount of human blood or precious glowing jade could satisfy the completely dried out earth. The gods remained silent, and the majestic empire faded away into the overgrown jungle. The underwater graveyard remains untouched, guarding the secrets of a desperate, broken people. Let us always remember the fragile boundary between natural beauty and extreme horror. The painted skulls of the sacrificed children will rest peacefully in their silent tomb forever. Their heartbreaking, dark tragedy has finally been brought into the light of modern science. As the deep blue water finally settles, the ghostly echoes of the ancient past fade away. The sacred cenote forever stands as a chilling reminder of our desperate struggle to survive. Was sacrificing these innocent children a brutal crime or a tragic necessity? Please share your deepest thoughts on this dark chapter of the Maya civilization below. If you found this history fascinating, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.